why? Just why? Why do passengers still have to cope with this? I mean, this happens all the time. More strikes over the same issue. Why can't this be resolved?
Well, we want it to be resolved, Julia, but the problem is the Department for Transport in this government won't let it be resolved. They won't let the company get round the table. Of course, we're out for the protection of the guard. We want the guard on every train, and the government won't guarantee that. Of course, the guard is there for two reasons. First, primarily for safety, and secondly, for accessibility, so that everybody can access the train, especially disabled people at any time.
It's not at all possible. We have this debate so many times. It's all about who presses a button to open and close the doors. So we've moved on from that to the
Julia,
guard.
Don't. Please don't try to trivialise what our people do on the trains. The guard's not about who presses a button. We've conceded that, and in a lot of places we don't press buttons at all. This is about the protection of the public, and it's about disabled people's right to access trains.
Well, you have a lot of other Steve.
Do.
You have a lot of other staff on trains. People working in the buffet car, the ticket collector, and who knows what. I mean, why can't they help disabled passengers onto the train?
Because they're not safety critical members of staff.
Couldn't they be trained to be safety critical members of staff? I mean, a member of the public. Hold on a minute. I can help someone onto a train. I've not been trained how to do it.
Can you? All right. So
yes.
If you're going to go down, are you, and help people off and on trains on a voluntary basis, are you, Julia?
No one's saying it should be voluntary.
Nonsense on the TV or on the radio.
No one's saying. Excuse me. I thought that was your job. No one's saying it should be voluntary. I'm saying you've already. It's not like there's only a train driver, and then the rest of the train. It's a ghost train. There's no one else there. If you've got someone who can sell the coffee, surely that person at stations could stop selling coffee and could help anyone who needs to be helped on.
Well, if I could interrupt your ignorant diatribe for a second. Firstly, a lot of trains don't have anybody on them except the driver. And secondly, a lot of stations, except through peak hours, don't have any staff at all. So, I mean, you really should do some research before coming on and embarrassing yourself in such a fashion.
Well, hold on a minute, Steve. You're talking about trains that don't have anyone but the driver on. And presumably there are mass deaths on those and injuries on those railways every day, are there?
That's why it's called driver-only operation.
Yeah, and we see mass chaos and deaths and injuries every day.
The clues is the name. Yeah, that's driver-only operation. That's the only person on the train. Right, let me answer that point. 70% of the most serious accidents happen on the 30% of the network. It's driver-only operation, so it's clearly a more unsafe system. Now, the fact of the matter is, taking aside the accidents that happen, the guard is there to make sure that people aren't assaulted on trains, that they aren't hassled. And, of course, they ensure that disabled people can get access. Now, you're not disabled, I understand that. But if you talk to the disabled people and their actual formations and their groups, they're livid about this. And they're actually taking sovereignty court at the minute. They're exploring legal options to take sovereignty court because people have to book up 48 hours in advance in order to get on the train, and that's clearly discrimination. You're right, can turn up at any time. Disabled people have to book up 48 hours in advance.
Well, I mean, surely one of the solutions is having more people on staff at stations.
Yeah, but they've already gone, Julia, because the government, which you wholeheartedly support, has got rid of them.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, what did you just say?
I said the government that you wholeheartedly
support. On what basis do you know how I vote?
Well, because your double-barreled name and your right-wing accents, I'd imagine.
I've got a right-wing accent.
Yes, well, your right-wing views.
I've got I've got double. Do you know how I got my double-barreled name? My Irish immigrant grandfather brought it into the family. Well, sorry about that.
He must be proud of you. Writing for the
he's dead. So sorry, I don't know. Steve, do you genuinely in 2018 you genuinely judge people based on their accent and their name?
I judge them by their views and everything.
So how do I judge you? How do I judge you based on that then?
Well, you judge me as a communist, don't you?
I've no idea whether you're a communist or not.
Are
you?
Because that rag that you write for keeps saying that I am.
I wouldn't make any assumptions. I'd ask you what your politics were, but I'm actually.
Want to get back to the subject?
But can I just say, is this not exactly what's going wrong on our railways right now with unions like RMT? That you think that having a strike is something to do with it's class warfare as opposed to the services that people need to get to work every day.
Talk about the strike, Julia. Do you not want to talk about the strike?
I was trying to, but you decided to insult me instead.
Oh well, you're very easily insulted, and you must have a very fragile ego.
Don't have a fragile eagle. I'm just a bit
Carry on.
embarrassed for you
Is
representing
it
your
all about
members.
you? Is it all about you? Or do you want to talk about the strike?
Well, apparently it is about me because apparently I've
Is
got a
it all about
double-barreled
you?
name, so I'm
Oh,
ignorant and
bless,
I can't ask
bless,
questions.
bless. Carry on. Do you not want to hear about the strike, Julia?
We were trying to talk about the strike. You moved the
Are you
debate
go- are
on
you-
to
I
class
don't- but it's
warfare.
all about you. It's all about you, isn't it, Julia? Carry on.
You're doing a great job by your own. I
Carry
think
on.
you're really going to help passengers to support you. Is this not about me and not about you and not about
Right.
your
You can
politics
back to
or
the
my
subject then.
Could I finish a sentence?
Yeah,
It's
of course,
actually
carry on.
about the passengers who
Yeah.
need to get to and from work. How does, if you were talking about helping disabled passengers, how does trains being on strike help disabled passengers?
Well, Julia, the point of people being on strike is not just to have a strike; it's to secure a resolution to this dispute, which has now been going on, a year. And let's face it, even when we're not on strike, Northern Rail can't even run 80% of our trains on time without cancellations and delays. They're shocking, appalling. And this is the privatised system. This is what you get when you run a train service, not to serve the public, but actually to make a profit. And this is what's happening. They're extracting billions of pounds worth of profit from our system. In fact, in Northern Rail, it's gone out of the country completely. It's gone into the pockets of Deutsche Bahn. Deutsche Bahn don't really care about getting this dispute resolved.
There are lots of people we know when the Jeremy Corbyn at the last Labour election, not the last election, the Labour Party policy was to gradually take these companies back into public ownership. A lot of support from the public on that. However, I'm not quite sure how the RMT going on strike yet again. It hasn't worked before. There's no reason to think it'll work now. In any way, helps passengers whether able-bodied or disabled.
Well, it's worked on ScotRail. It's worked on Great Western. It's worked on Arriva Trains Wales. We now believe we've secured a resolution that we're putting out to our members on referendum on Greater Anglia. So it actually does work. I mean, what's your alternative? Just lie down and take what they give you?
I'm sure there are other ways to come to the table. I thought a bunch of grown adults could actually come to maybe go to some mediation. Both agree to accept the mediation would seem to be the grown-up way of dealing with this without inflicting it on the passengers.
Well, we tried writing them a stern email, and that didn't work. We tried going to ACAS, and that didn't work either. We've been in ACAS for months and months. The fact of the matter is, this company don't care if we're on strike or not. I have to admit that because they're getting indemnified by the.
They get by,
by
yeah.
the
They
government.
yes. Even despite my double-barreled name, my accent, and my ignorance generally, I was aware of that. Steve Hedley, pleasure to speak to you. I'm sure some people say that. RMT Senior Assistant General Secretary. Thank you very much for joining us.